Melanie Trailer, and we have a block demo for you today. I'm going to show you how to make a sawtooth star. So sawtooth stars, pretty traditional. I mean, like major traditional. When you think of quilts, you almost always think of sawtooth stars, right? I'm sure your grandmother, if she quilted, had a sawtooth star in one of her quilts. They are very, very common, very, very old. They're made with flying geese units. So we're going to use the 4 at a time method to make those geese. And I would say that flying geese tend to be a little bit more of confident to advanced beginner. So if you're brand new to patchwork, don't start right here. Do another block first and then come here, because those flying geese can be a little bit frustrating. But I'm going to show you some tips and tricks to make sure that you get all your points lining up and you get the points in the flying geese. So let's get started.
So your pattern is going to tell you what size to cut all of the pieces needed for your sawtooth star. I have several patterns that include sawtooth stars. But basically, this is what you've got construction. You should have 5 pieces for your flying geese units. 1 piece will be your background, whatever the background is, and then you'll have 4 squares to make flying geese. Then you'll have your very center of your sawtooth star, and then you'll have your 4 corners of your block, right? So getting started, you're always going to piece your flying geese first. So you'll put all these other pieces away that don't need piecing, and you'll focus on your flying geese. And to get started, we just want to draw lines on the back of our smaller squares. And I'm just using, you can use anything you want, but I'm just going to use just a basic pen, nothing special. You do want to make sure that your lines go right into each corner. So I tend to just kind of line up my ruler just off to the point. That way when I draw my line, I get it right there in the point. All right, so now we'll take our background. We're going to put it like kind of diagonal, and then our foreground are going to go right side down. And we're going to line up one of them in this corner, one of them in this corner. And we're going to grab a pen, and we're just going to slip a pin in these. Just like that. And then we're going to go to the sewing machine. All right, I'm going to show you this step from multiple angles, but I want to show you essentially what we're doing is we need to sew a 1/4 inch on both sides of this drawn line. If you have a 1/4 inch foot, that's the time, this is the time to use it. That 1/4 inch foot will make this part so easy. If you don't have a 1/4 inch foot, you'll want to have some kind of tape right here. All right, now I am using diagonal seam tape, but you don't necessarily have to have this special tape. You can use just regular washi tape. And what you would want to do, and I have a separate video all about this tape, by the way, and I will put that wherever you're seeing this video. I'll put a link to that video right beside it, because it goes into way more detail about this tape and regular washi tape and how to use it. But if you have diagonal seam tape, you want to put it where the 1/4 inch, this is a 1/4 inch, you want to put that 1/4 inch line on the 1/4 inch line on your needle plate. If you have basic washi tape with no measurements on it, that's fine too. You would put the edge of the tape right where the 1/4 inch line would be. And the way you want to do this, and again, this is just for those of you who don't have a 1/4 inch foot to use as your guide. What you would do is you would keep this corner, as you started sewing this piece, you would keep this corner on that 1/4 inch line. And that will help you get your correct 1/4 inch seam. All right, so I'm gonna do the demo, and I'm gonna give you a few more tips and tricks. So hopefully you can see, there's my diagonal seam tape or washi tape, whatever you want it to be. And I like to use my foot as a guide. Now I've got a scant 1/4 inch foot, so I'm not going to use it at the very edge because you actually don't want to use a scant. You might want to make a few practice blocks just to be sure, but you don't trim flying geese down. So you don't need to use a scant. Scant seams are used when you're trimming something down. You do want to make sure that you are sewing to the inside of that 1/4 inch line on your needle plate. So there's my 1/4 inch line. I've got my tape lining up with it right there. So this tape just extends that 1/4 inch line so that I can see it. So when I put my my unit in here to start sewing, I'm going to keep this 1/4 inch here on the inside of this line. Doing this will help me get a perfect 1/4 inch or a tiny smidgen less than a 1/4 inch. Again, you don't want it quite a scant inch, but a little bit less is okay because you can always trim them down, but you can't always make them bigger, right? So that's what this is going to look like, and I'm going to show you as I get started. All right, my eyes are here, okay? And I'm keeping my eyes right here, and I'm keeping that corner on the inside of this line right here. So pull this out. Thread. All right, and then what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to flip this piece over, and I'm going to do the same thing but on the opposite side of my drawn line. And again, my eyes are right here, right at this corner, making sure that it stays on the inside of that 1/4 inch line. All right, and then you're going to look something like this. If you find that you struggle with flying geese units, this is your problem most of the time. I mean, you can have a little bit of cutting errors. You can have some pressing errors. They can contribute to some issues you're having, but most of the time, it's this. It's getting that 1/4 inch. And I want to be very clear. I'm saying sew a 1/4 inch from the line, but if you've got your piece smack dab on top of that line, your chances of sewing a little bit more than a 1/4 inch are stronger. So just put it just to the inside of it. I actually don't have a 1/4 inch foot. This foot is a scant 1/4 inch foot. So I don't want to use my foot as a guide, but I like to use right between the 1/4 inch line and my foot as kind of the place where I'm keeping the corners of my units. All right, so here we are at the pressing mat. And before I start cutting on this, I want to go ahead and give it a little press just to set my seams. And you may not can see it on this video, but there's just a tiny bit of little waviness. That is tension. And, it just needs a press. Pressing now will make me have better cuts, okay? So if I try to press this if I try to start cutting this before, I'm liable to make a cutting error. Setting my seams like this will help me not make a cutting error. It may not work 100% of the time, but any little bit helps. All right, so now we're going to cut this. All right, so here we are, and we are going to cut right on that diagonal line. I'm going to line up my ruler with the drawn line, and we'll cut just like that. And then we're going to go back to the pressing mat. So now you have pieces that look like this. And we're going to take our hand and we're going to push this out. We're not going to push it with the iron. We're going to push it with our hand and then press. Don't do this. You want to treat it like it's a precious little baby because these flying geese units are finicky. All right. Do the first one. I'll do the second one, same way. Grab some starch or pressing spray. And just so you know, I am using steam. I love steam, and I love pressing spray. So let's grab those squares that we put aside in the beginning. These little squares with our drawn lines. Now we're going to put one right here. And we're going to put one right here. And grab my pins. And I'm just going to pin this in place. So I've got 2 units now that look like this, and we're going to go back to the sewing machine. All right, so same thing as before, we just got to do 2 different units. We're putting this corner on our 1/4 inch line on the inside of the 1/4 inch line, and this corner is going to go to the inside of this 1/4 inch line. Or if you have your patchwork foot, you just go use that as your guide. That is definitely way simpler. I'm putting the second one in there. All right, I'm gonna cut this little thread that connects these guys. All right, so this time we're gonna flip this around, and we're gonna do the same thing. We're putting this in right on the inside of our 1/4 inch line over here, or use your patchwork foot, and then we are keeping this corner here on the inside of this line. And all this is about is just trying to get that perfect 1/4 inch seam allowance. Sometimes when you're sewing, you're piecing blocks and units, sometimes you don't have to be quite as cautious. And then some units like flying geese or snowball corners, those kind of pieces kind of trip you up and make you be a little bit more cautious than you might otherwise be. All right. So now both pieces are sewn just like this, and we're gonna go back to the pressing mat. All right, we're gonna give these just a quick press to set those seams. And then we're going to cut them. All right, so again, I'm gonna line up my ruler with that diagonal line and cut. And then over here, cut. All right, let's go press these. All right, so again, we're using caution because we won't want to do all this work for them to come out terrible, which they do come out terrible sometimes. So if you are struggling, know that this is a unit, a block that a lot of quilters struggle with. So you are not alone. All right, and I'm just going to spray them with the pressing spray and press again. All right, we got to trim them one more time. All right, and this time, I'm not going to use the ruler. I'm just going to kind of eyeball these. But I just want to go through and cut off these little dog ears. So just like this. All right, so after you get those dog ears cut off, you just want to give these a quick measure and make sure that you have them at the size you need. For me, that always means not cutting down here. So on a flying geese unit, you really don't want to cut here, here, or here. The only place that you want to cut is right there. So you would line up your ruler. So right there, I'm putting the line, the width that I want them, and then I would cut away any extra. And this was my extra, so I didn't have a lot. I probably could have just left that, but if you want to save yourself some frustration when you start piecing them to the other parts of this block, you can go ahead and do that. But most of the time they come out, you know, really, really close to size. All right, so flying geese done, and let's move on to the other pieces. All right, so now we have our middle square and we have our flying geese. Our flying geese are going to go around our middle square just like this. Watch out for that, because I can't tell you how many times I've done that. So, you know, the flying geese, you want their bottom, or their top actually, to be, you know, surrounding this part so that you get your star shape. And then you've got your smaller squares, which are going to go just like this. All right, so what we're going to do now is we're going to sew this row together, and then this row together. All right, I've got each of my rows sewn. All right, so the middle row, we're going to press these seams to the inside. All right, and then the top and bottom row, we're going to press those seams that way. So they're going to be pressed, you know, to the edges. And this will help get all of our pieces to nest up and get our seams, you know, lining up too. All right, so let me just go ahead and give it just a little bit of pressing spray, real light. Press them all one more time. This will make it easier for me to get them to line up. All right, so now we're going to pin this to this and then this to this. And this is just going to flip down just like this. And we are going to line these seams up. They should nest together because we've alternated, you know, the direction of the seams. And you'll feel it between your finger and your thumb. They will just bump up and kiss just like that. Just like that. And then right into that seam, I'm going to put a pin. And I'm going to do the same thing over here. So get them to nest up. So just like that, flip it over, and then we're going to put this one. Again, double check, you know, that it's not like that. So we got it like this. Flip it over, nest those seams together. Okay, and now I'm going to take it to the sewing machine and I'm going to sew right here and right here. So all sewn, and I'm going to set those seams again. So just give it a little press. Just get everything nice and flat. All right, and then we're going to open up both of these seams. So I'll flip my piece upside down, I usually slip a fingernail right into the seam to open it up. Just like this, and then press. And don't slide the iron. You know, pick it up and put it down. Use a little steam. Same thing for this seam. All right, so it should look like that. Flip it over. Give it some pressing spray. And that is our Sawtooth star.